Hello everyone, and here, the little Frenchie in Big Texas. Today I'm in the big city, Houston, and we are going to talk about the challenges of gardening in the city backyard. Whether it's better to use pots or raised beds, pros and cons, and how I overcame some of the challenges I have here. So if this is of interest to you, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel as well. I've been trying to grow in my city backyard for the second year, learning on my experience, on my mistakes, and some lessons learned here. And I would say the first challenge, kind of the obvious here, you're limited in space. I mean, I'm pretty lucky here. I have just shy of 1/4 of an acre. But that also includes the house, and we also have a pool. So at the end, we have what's left to garden, and it's already got vegetation. I already have trees, bushes, and so on. So you have to overcome all this and organize your space so that you can reserve some area for gardening. And when I say the challenge is a small space, it's also that you share it with your pets. And here we have full-time one large dog and 2 other dogs that come and go. So it's at the end, some days, 3 dogs in the backyard. And they walk around, they do what they have to do, which is not necessarily the best for the plants, and you have to deal with it. So that also is a challenge, I would say. But beyond my dogs, what I found the biggest challenge here are the critters, bugs, pests that you have around. So here we have a lot of squirrels, for instance, in the big city. We also have, you've got birds coming and going. You have quite actually some nice birds. But at the end, they all come after what you're growing. Especially if you got some nice fruits, hanging from the trees, apples, peaches. Oh yes, they're gonna go for those before you. So you need to make sure you protect your fruits, tomatoes, whatever you're growing, protect them first before they start getting this nice color. My tomatoes, for instance, if they're green, they're good. They start getting attacked once they start turning red, and that's the time where I need to pretty much cover. So I use nests. It's been proven good against it worked against birds, and I'm not sure if it's squirrels or rats, but I had issues with growing tomatoes here, and they had a feast before I did. So something to take into account. What I also did here is use repellent, and I learned that garlic is a good repellent. So you can either grow garlic or have some garlic scented bags, which I bought a few on Amazon. They worked. It really prevented whatever I had from going into my raised beds and starting to eat what I was growing. So that worked. Just be careful when they say it's really garlic scented. It is. It's very strong. So if you use your hands without a glove, it's going to smell garlic for days. So make sure you use a glove here. Yeah, that works. You can also grow some plants, herbs that are more of a deterrent, like oregano or mint, for instance. If you plant them strategically in your raised bed, that also could work. So a few ideas here on how to fight these pests. I also use some bug sprays here because I had bugs, especially on the raised beds. So lessons learned here. For the raised beds, you really have to work that ground, that soil before planting. Work it so that you don't have pets, nests, eggs in there. And if necessary, use some safe spray against the bugs here. So please share in the comments below, what do you do? What works best for you? Did you find a solution against your pests, your bugs in your city backyard? And what is the plant you grow the best? But despite the small space, despite the bugs, critters, and so on, what I found the most challenging here was the absence of pollinators. And it's getting worse, especially the bees. I mean, seldomly see bee in my backyard. And when I compare to the country, we have a property in East Texas. We actually have beehive, and I mean, the bees are everywhere. They pollinate naturally the garden. Here, it doesn't work. I mean, you might get a bit of pollination. You got a bit of wind. You got some bees, maybe just a few. You got some butterflies. You do have a few, but it's not going to pollinate everything. So unfortunately, you have to intervene here and do it yourself. So I've seen different techniques here, whether you want to use a light toothbrush and kind of like bzzz, so that it shakes a bit the flower and some pollens gets out onto another. Or what I used was a cotton swab, going from one to another with a cotton swab. But you have to do it yourself. You have to do something, otherwise you're just taking a chance. A chance it might work, but also a high chance it is not going to work. So some lessons learned here. I probably did not pollinate enough, I say, this year. I did it initially with the zucchinis, and then I stopped because it started having overgrown vegetation on top, and I did not continue, and it has not produced since then because it's not getting pollinated. I see the flowers, beautiful flowers. They're there, but nothing after the flowers. So some challenges here. It's not impossible, it's just harder. You don't have the space to put it to scale. I mean, you can do something still. I mean, even in a small space you can grow, but you have to overcome your pets, all the critters and bugs, and the absence of pollinators. So it's quite a bit. But as I said, it's feasible. So the question is, what works best here between having raised beds or having pots? Or instead of pots, you can have these fabric kind of buckets that are also very handy, and I tried this year. So I think you can grow more, of course, if you have raised beds. But you need to make sure you work that soil first so that bugs do not grow in there. But you can do it. And so far with my dogs, they have not gone into the raised beds. They know they're there. They might pee on the edges, but that is it. They're not actually stepping in. They could. They're big dogs. They could, but they haven't. So that's positive. But myself, I have to say here, I think the pots work better this year for me. It's easier to move them around, put them inside if needed, and I really like the fabric ones. Very handy to grow potatoes. I'm trying some tomatoes as well. So far, it's going good. So I like the flexibility to move them around. The fact that it's kind of light. They're actually higher than my raised beds. So that also, the pets are not messing up too much with them. But it's much smaller quantities, so you need quite a few of those. So pros and cons, you have to figure out what works best for you. I like to have a mix here, because if one doesn't work, I have the other. It's maybe a tactic to split it between the raised beds and the pots. I'm growing quite a few citrus trees this year in pots, and that is really for us in Texas, because we've had some freezes in the last few years. So if the temperatures drop this winter, I'll be able to take them back in. I don't want them in the ground. Choice here, I lost too many. I'm not doing it again. I'm waiting to see how much they grow and whether they develop well in pots. It's been only the first or second year. I need to repot them next year into a larger pot, and we will see. So far, they're doing good. I even have a few that are trying to produce. I have one that's looking pretty good. We'll see if it makes it to maturity. It's really, I mean, it's the first year. I'm not expecting much. If I do have a grapefruit, I'll be delighted, but we'll see. you.